Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
You are listening to Lone Star Community Radio on 104.5 KCZWLP Conroe and 106.1 KZCCLP Conroe and worldwide on irlonestar.com.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. I need to have a card up there that says, Afternoon, Cindy. Afternoon, Cindy. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. And we're just so happy to have you with us, whatever time you think it is. We're glad you're here. And we have got a great guest today. Oh, my word. Steve Stoliar is here. I'm so excited about it because I have been for days listening to podcasts with Steve on them. And so I feel like if he decided not to show up, I could just go ahead and do this anyway, but he's going to be here, and we're going to be talking to him real soon. But I got to tell you something. This morning on the news, I can't believe it. Remember Scott Peterson? Doesn't that name just make you want to throw up in your mouth? But that name, Scott Peterson, may be coming back to a new trial. Can you believe that? Why in the world would anybody give this guy, this piece of dirt? No, you shouldn't judge. Okay, don't judge. I'm sorry. But why would they give him a new trial? It's because a girl who was wanting to get some publicity and just her 15 minutes of fame gets on the jury by lying about that she's never had any kind of domestic abuse. So and you lie about that, and you're in a trial about what happened with Scott Peterson killing his wife and unborn child. So they found that his lawyers found out about this, and now they're going to try and bring this and turn this over and have a new trial because you're guaranteed 12 people of your peers that are unbiased. And so they felt that would make her biased. But here's the deal to me that's weird, is that then she starts getting to be a pen pal of Scott's and wants to do a book about why men cheat. And so she's trying to get this information from him about, why he cheated and all that stuff. So anyway, I'm warning you, you're going to be able to just knock off the news for a while because that's all they're going to be talking about. This morning it was. So anyway, I am so excited about this guest coming up. We're gonna take a break and we're gonna call Mr. Steve Stoliar. And I know he's there because I called him and he said, okay, but I got to eat something first. Okay, so he was gonna go eat something and by the time I got here, I know he's finished and he'll be fine. But this guy is amazing. I am so intimidated. I'm so intimidated, Richard, to send this guy an email or a text because he texted me and his text starts with later that same evening. And that's how he starts the text. And you feel like you're going to read a novel. He is so smart. I don't even know if the quotation is supposed to go here or there or where a comma. And so it's so very intimidating to write him a text, but he's very gracious and he's just brilliant. He is the one that just wrote, well, he didn't just write it. He has written the book called Raised Eyebrows. This is about Groucho Marx's life and how he lived with this guy in his house for so many years, being his secretary and archivist, and with his, they weren't married, Aaron Fleming was also in the house, and there was a lot of drama that went on. But he met every celebrity because they all came over to Groucho's house. And in Groucho's house, even though you're a kid that he's only like 19 and he's a secretary and he's doing work for him, he gets to sit at the table with all these celebrities and everybody. It was just, that fascinated me. I love that part. And so He's going to talk about all of his adventures and what he has done, and he's a great impersonator. You will close your eyes and you think that Groucho Marx is talking. Unless he becomes Harpo with me, he won't do it. I think he will. I think he'll break out into Groucho, and he also wrote and was the voice of the star of Frosty. Now, you may not remember that, but Frosty, and I don't know how you impersonate that, but anyway, that's going to happen. So, a lot of fun, exciting things that we're going to talk about today with Steve Stoliar. So you guys stay right there. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Second Saturday Divorce Workshop provides unbiased information to help you understand your options and move forward with your life. This divorce workshop is for you if you are contemplating divorce, in the process of divorce, already filed for divorce, or post-divorce. You will explore the emotional, legal, and financial aspects of divorce from professionals who have guided others through divorce. For more information on this divorce workshop, contact SecondSaturdayWoodlands.com or call 832-375-0900.
And we're back on the Cindy Cochran Show. And with me, my very special guest, Steve Stoliar. Hello, Steve. Hello, Steve. Steve, are you there? Oh, boy, we had this fun problem the other day. But, I mean, unless you're signing to me, I can't hear him. And he is not there? He's gone? Okay, we're going to call him back. Okay, we'll call him back. And maybe I shouldn't have said he's going to play Harpo on me. I shouldn't have said that. Anyway, he's got some really great stories. Groucho Marx, I mean, up to the end of his death, he was still so fast. And that's what I loved about watching You Bet Your Life and his movies. And Steve, in fact, helped bring to life a movie that had been lost for a long time. And anybody that was a real big Groucho Marx fan, they were the ones who were trying so hard at UCLA, when he was going to UCLA, to get... I think this may be it.
Take two.
I'm so sorry, Steve. We lost you.
I didn't even give you it. You didn't even give me a chance to say something offensive so that you could slam the phone down in anger. You just pulled the plug on spec.
I already did that this morning after your conversation this morning. It's like,
yeah.
Don't say that word. Don't say that word. Okay, so anyway, Steve, we're so happy to have you here in Conroe, Texas. I know this isn't an exclusive because I've been listening to all your podcasts, but it is to Conroe, I'm sure. So I just appreciate so much you taking the time to do this.
Certainly, it is my pleasure.
Well, you know, I think of all your accomplishments, of everything that you've done, and all that you've seen and heard and written about, which one? Now, you're going to love this. Remember how all people being interviewed hate when anybody says, "What's your favorite movie?" or "What's your favorite song?" Yeah. I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to say, of your accomplishments, which are you proudest of?
My favorite song is Rhapsody in Blue. Oh, I'm sorry. I must have misunderstood what you said. If I don't have a specific answer, then it makes it seem like I'm arrogant and saying, I have made so many accomplishments in my lifetime, and I'm not even over yet. I don't know what to do. But I would have to say that having written a book called Raised Eyebrows, My Years Inside Groucho's House, and watching it in the process of being turned into a motion picture is enormously gratifying. There's no real hard and fast boundary between the two. It's this one large process of I sat down thinking that maybe I had enough to say to warrant an article for Vanity Fair or Esquire or something.
Or to be on the Cindy Cochran show. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Or to be on the Cindy Cochran show.
Yes, exactly. And I found myself with a book-length manuscript.
Oh, my word.
Had more to say than I thought I would. And it went from there and then was optioned, and I've co-written the screenplay, and I'm one of the producers on it. And
star in it. You star in it, right? I mean, not you physically, but you are one of the principal characters in it, right?
Yes, and it's so surreal. It's such a through the looking glass thing, because the movie, just as the book, is not a biography of Groucho Marx. It focuses on the last 3 years of his life, which is when I worked for him, and I was just this kid going to UCLA. And so most of the action and the circumstances in the book and the film are the interplay between this naive kid and his aging idol, because I was like the biggest Groucho fan in the world. And then this woman, Erin Fleming, who was volatile and just sort of all over the map behavior-wise. She was later diagnosed as having schizophrenia, but Groucho had grown very fond of her, and as he got weaker, he got more dependent on her. Mm-hmm. So you had this really delicate balance between this aging hero fading out and this ambitious and unbalanced woman, and then this kid in the middle trying to be the best help he can be to his hero and deal with a mercurial, unpredictable woman who was completely in charge of the household. So I did a lot of growing up in those days. But
I bet you did. But
as Dorothy said at the end of Oz, some of it wasn't very nice, but most of it was beautiful. It was inarguably a fabulous and life-changing experience for me.
I just can't even wrap my brain around it. That's so amazing. I do wonder, so they've gotten Ryan Gosling to play you in the movie? Is that what?
Not entirely.
Not entirely.
But, yeah, it's not a bad
Who's playing you?
Well, there's a young actor. Of course, he'd have to be a young actor. It's funny because people have been throwing all sorts of names at me, and I'm saying he can't play 20 anymore. You're not staying current. You're throwing out the names of people in their 40s, and you can't. There's a young actor named Charlie Plummer whose star is on the rise. He played the young J. Paul Getty III in All the Money in the World, the kid that gets kidnapped. And he's been in other TV miniseries and films, and the director, Oren Moverman, has worked with him before and believes he has the chops for this pivotal role. It's certainly not necessary that he look anything like me because, only like 17 people worldwide would say, that's not what Steve looked like in 1974. So I tell people either we look enough alike to be neighbors,
right?
Or if you put a picture of me at 20 next to him now, they're eerily dissimilar.
Yes, but is he going to wear you had the mustache that connected with the sideburns?
He will too. Yeah,
okay.
I had the mutton chops and the mustache, And I mean, it was the 70s.
Right.
So, yeah, he'll look like me in that respect. But, he's taller and slimmer and better looking. But, that again, it doesn't really matter that much.
Well, were you there for the audition?
I was on the set. What'd you say?
Were you there for the audition when he came in to audition for this, or did he have to?
Oh, he didn't audition. The director had worked with him
already
before and said, I think he would be good for Steve. When I was on the set of Cafe Society a few years ago, I'm friends with Woody Allen, and he had said, feel free to come by the set and watch how not to make a movie. So I got to hang out on the set, and he was super interested in, what's happening with your movie? Is it moving forward? What's going to happen? And I mean, this has been a lengthy process of trying to have this come together.
Oh,
we were
right.
talking about possible casting, and then he said, and nobody knows what you look like. You could get Orlando Bloom to play you. So that's sort of like your Ryan Gosling suggestion. It's true.
That's right.
Nobody knows what I look like, and so it could be pretty much anyone. But more interesting than that, I think, to the average listener, and you do have average listeners.
Oh, yes, we do. And I'm not talking about Don Wilson, but yes, we do.
Okay. Groucho is going to be played by Jeffrey Rush.
I didn't know we could tell that. That's so great.
Well, I hope we can, because I just did.
I hope.
And Erin Fleming, the tempestuous woman in charge of Groucho's life, is going to be played by Sienna Miller. So we are very happy we have these leads. And as a matter of fact, it wasn't even a matter of trying to convince Jeffrey Rush to take the part. He was champing at the bit, which is the proper version of that phrase. It is not
chomping.
It's
oh, okay.
to do with eating celery. It's champing.
Champing at
which
the
is where the horse sort of rubs his teeth against the bit in anticipation, which is different from devouring the bit, which would not be healthy.
Right.
But enough
Very
about
good.
veterinary advice. He's a huge. Jeffrey Rush is a huge Groucho fan.
Oh, that's great.
Can't wait to sink his teeth, so to speak, into this, and has been immersing himself in any number of videos and films and interviews and books, and he's really studying up on this to do justice to this part. And we hope to film in the late fall, which is not all that far away.
No, it's not. It's right around the corner.
So that is the short answer to your question about what accomplishment I'm proudest of.
Well, I certainly don't blame you. And I was so excited when you said Jeffrey Rush. I thought it's so how perfect is that? And he was the one who came to y'all or talked to you first about it, or did y'all sit around a table?
This sounds like I'm going to be either making this up or exaggerated, but because I tend to be scrupulously accurate, I'm kind of a stickler for accuracy. This is exactly what happened. The script was over at CAA, and we were looking towards seeing if Jeffrey Rush would be interested. And there was someone from the production company and an agent talking about the script, and this elderly man came over and said, "Pardon me for eavesdropping, but what is it you're discussing?"
Oh.
And they said, "Oh, it's this movie we're producing about Groucho Marx's last days." And the guy said, "Oh, I represent Jeffrey Rush, and I'm willing to bet that Jeffrey would love to play this." And so before we had a chance to ask him, his agent was saying, "Can we read the script?" I mean, what the chances were that Rush's agent would be there that day to overhear a discussion of the project and volunteer his client's interest is so it really was sort of fate that is bringing this together after, as I say, a really long and winding road of false starts and wondering if it's ever going to happen, and things falling through and things happening, getting the ball closer to the goal line. And
now it's going to go so fast. It's going to go so fast. Well,
Yeah.
I just wonder, I'm curious, are you going to be helping him with the, not in the dialogue, but helping him be able to sound like Groucho?
Well, he's been working with a dialect coach for a while, so that he's less Melbourne and more Manhattan, I suppose. But I will be on the set, but I also don't want to usurp the director's role, you know. I mean, I'm flattered that I'll be welcome on the set, because often the writer is marginalized.
Yes.
When the adults say, this is what we do. You've given us a good foundation, but we have some exciting ideas we'd like to try, and we really don't want you there interfering. So it'll be great. And as I say, just this surreal, the idea that I'll be on a set
of your movie,
create a house that I spent the better part of 3 years in, seeing people, playing people I knew, including me at 20. It's just, it really blows whatever's left of my mind at this point.
Well, I just hope that before this conversation ends, that you can. I bragged about you and how much you sound like Groucho, and if you could just say,
I don't young Groucho from the 1930s, because that wasn't the Groucho that I worked around. I knew the Groucho who was in his 80s, and I would sit at the lunch table and I would listen to his stories about working in vaudeville and working with his brothers Harpo and Chico and Zeppo, and I developed a facility for creating the peculiar characteristics of the manner in which he would express himself.
That's chilling. It's like you bring him to life. You know, I can't see you, and so I'm just listening to this, and I remember him. I mean, even in You Bet Your Life, he slowed down more than, of course, in the movies, but he would talk just exactly like that. So
oh yeah, you know, he was in his 60s and early 70s during You Bet Your Life. So even that was somewhat before I got to know him. It's very strange to realize I'm always playing this kind of stretching and compressing game with time, because when I went to work for him in 74, You Bet Your Life had been off the air for 12 years, and it seemed like a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
And now it's been so long since my Groucho years that to think that it was now only 12 years earlier had he finished doing You Bet Your Life, it's weird, because at the time it seemed forever ago that he was that man in the bow tie with the duck coming down.
Well, it's funny because he's all over YouTube, of course, you know, the segments from it. And so I loved listening, watching those. I know it was unscripted, because he's so fast. He certainly doesn't need any script at all, but he's so fast in being able to take up whatever it's thrown at him.
The truth is, it was a blend of the two. The contestants would be very carefully and thoroughly interviewed by the staff, and the staff would come up with suggested areas of, it's like, have Groucho ask them about this. And they would come up with suggested clever things he could say. And that was projected with an overhead projector behind the heads of the contestants.
Ah.
So it wasn't entirely spontaneous. However, they would shoot, I think, about 50 minutes for each half-hour show, and then edit it down. And what was left was often predominantly the stuff that he thought of on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So like if people think, oh, well, then anybody could have done that sitting there reading off the overhead projector, they're mistaken, because
Right.
he made it look like he was making it up, just as he did with his dialogue in the movies, and B, much of what you saw was made up. So that's my full disclosure. Some of it was written, but much of it was him, so he still deserves a lot of credit for staying on the air. I mean, he was on TV for 12 years, and it was on radio for 3 years before that. So it was on from 47 to 62, which is a pretty healthy run.
Sure is. My word. I didn't know that he was on radio, too. I didn't realize that. So because he was one of the first ones that came on.
Pardon?
He was like one of the first ones, shows I remember, the black and white shows, because I think we got our TV set in 1949 or something like that. And but it was so fun to watch him. And even, when you're that young, and usually that was not that cool, you think, these people are just answering questions. But he was so funny, and it was just fun to watch.
Yeah,
to watch
the
him.
quiz was just an excuse for him to have fun with the contestants and with George Fenneman, who was a very nice man.
He was.
And
he was so sweet. And he just seemed like the average normal guy that just lived in the cookie cutter houses.
Was only hired. He was only hired to read the commercials, but then they quickly realized that there was a chemistry there, and that Fenneman, or Phenomint, as Groucho called him, would sort of represent the average person. It's like, imagine if you were up there, and Fenneman would say he always knew he was in for it when he'd be off stage, and Groucho would go, Fenneman, come in here. And it's like, oh, God, what's he going to have me do? Am I going to have to be flown on wires or test something or play something? Fenneman, get in here.
That's
they had
perfect.
a great relationship.
They did, and he you could tell he would go like, "Oh my God, what are you asking? Why you want me to say that? What do you want me to say? Just tell me what you want me to say. I'll say it." But anyway, the thing though that you are best well known for among the Marx Brothers fanatics is that you saved duck soup. And so,
animal crackers.
Animal crackers. See, you didn't save it well enough because I couldn't remember the name of it. Animal crackers, but that was the one that had been almost shelved and never again seen until you found out.
I'll try to tell it. I'll try to tell it as condensed as I can. But it had been made for Paramount in 1930, and then basically due to a clerical error, the copyright had expired and the rights reverted back to the authors and composers of the original Broadway play of Animal Crackers. Then in the late 40s, MCA Universal bought all of Paramount's old films, which is why on TV you would see that big triangle and it would say MCA TV release, and I would want to run up to the set and add an N, so it said an MCA. But anyway, and then there'd be the Paramount Mountain, which the original studio. So they acquired Animal Crackers, but they didn't have the rights to syndicate it in their packages of old movies that would be on TV or re-released in theaters. And they certainly didn't think there was any reason for them to spend good money on trying to get an old Marx Brothers movie out of mothballs, because they were focused on the next big thing, not some creaky old black and white movie. But all of my friends were Marx Brothers fanatics, and so this was the great, lost chalice. It's like they only made 13 movies.
Right.
And 12 of them were readily available, and then there was this one that hadn't been in theaters in decades and hadn't been seen on TV and syndication. And so I organized a petition drive at UCLA and to put pressure on Universal to spend the money and get the movie out again so that all the Marx Brothers fans could finally see him playing Captain Spaulding and delivering all these classic lines like about shooting an elephant in his pajamas and all that. And that's how I got in touch with Aaron's publicity people. And Groucho came to UCLA, and we sat side by side, and my heart was beating out of my chest in excitement.
Great.
I said, Groucho, I'm very happy to be meeting you. And he said, well, you should be. And then Aaron, who was in charge, said, this is Steve Stoliar. He's the one who's trying to get Animal Crackers re-released. And just said, well, did you get it? And I said, not yet, but we're working on it. And he said, you better or I'll fire you. And I said, I didn't realize I was working for you. How much are you paying me? And he said, a little less than nothing. And we were off and running. And then Universal relented. They thought, fine, stop all this adverse publicity. So they spent the money to untangle the legal thing, and they brought it out in 2 theaters, the UA Westwood and in 1 theater in New York. And it was like, here, we'll humor you. We'll play it here. And it ended up breaking the box office record at the UA Westwood that had been set by the French Connection several years earlier. And now it's super gratifying when I hear from fans who say, oh, Animal Crackers was the first Marx Brothers movie I saw. Because it's like, you should only know what we went through to get that film to the point where all you have to do now is take some device out of your pocket and play, and there it is, because, even with old movies that were in syndication, I'd have to stay up till 3 in the morning when Channel 5 would run something. I'd go through the TV guide and see what was going to be on and will myself to stay awake. So now Animal Crackers is just as easily available as the others. And I was rewarded for my work by being given this dream-come-true job of working for my hero inside his house in Beverly Hills for what became the last 3 years of his life. I was his secretary and archivist in charge of all of his memorabilia. And because I was on the inside, I got to meet so many people I admired under comfortable conditions. It wasn't like someone at a restaurant and you go over and ask for their autograph.
No, you're sitting at the table with them and eating.
So I got to meet George Burns and Bob Hope and Mae West and Steve Allen and Jack Lemmon and the people who were the writers and directors of the Marx Brothers films or the people who worked on You Bet Your Life. I got to hang out with these people, which was just mind-blowing at 19 and 20.
But Steve, were you doing impersonations at that time, or was it after all that?
I've always had a flair for that. I used to make people crack up if I did impressions of teachers. I mean, I was class clown of my high school class of 1,100 people, and I always had a flair for that, but I certainly wouldn't do it to their faces because that's awkward. I remember Dick Cavett saying that when he met Stan Laurel, Laurel would tell him that people would show up at his apartment and speak like him the entire time. And it's like he didn't know where do you look when someone is standing there saying, Mr. Laurel, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm so pleased to be. It's like, what are you supposed to do with that? So, no, I don't have to do it to people's faces.
Well, I just wanted to hear a little bit of Mae West. How do you know?
Well, let me see. Before Mae West came up and saw him the night, and I was there that night, Groucho wasn't nervous because he wasn't starstruck, because he was a living legend himself.
Right.
Aaron Fleming was very nervous about Groucho being on his best behavior, which sort of like telling a kid not to touch the wet paint where it says wet paint. And she said, you have to be on your best behavior. And he was looking at it like, what do you mean? Of course I will. So the first thing that happened is as soon as she walked in the door, Groucho said, "Hey, May, what do you hear from Bill Fields?" Well, W.C. Fields was her co-star in My Little Chickadee, and it was well known that they hated each other. They hated each other because they were these two monster egos and only communicated by writing notes that a diplomat in between would shut her back and forth between. So the first thing Groucho says is, "What do you hear from Bill Fields?" And Mae West said, "In your dreams, Groucho, in your dreams." And then Groucho said, "Didn't they throw you in the pokey once?" Now, so he's leading with two of the most embarrassing things, but she was fine, and she said, "Oh, they did, Groucho, but I always managed to wiggle out of tight situations." And she was wiggled, and it was like, I don't believe what I'm witnessing here. She sounds and looks just like Mae West, and she's making these suggestive answers to and of course Aaron is dying, thinking, why does he have to say these things? And he might not have said them if she hadn't said, be on your best.
Exactly. That was unfair, totally unfair. But you.
And then I had a book that I had her sign, and she wrote to Steve, sin-Searly. So she liked to separate the sin from the Searly. So she kept. I mean, even though she was in her late 80s, she kept up the sex pot image. She was very short. She was 4'11" in her hair.
She was?
Yeah. It's a testament to her presence on camera that she seems so big. And, you do shrink a little when you get older, but not, a foot.
Right.
So,
never the right way. That's, I'm trying to see her standing next to people, and it never seemed like they.
Heels, you can see that she doesn't come up to their shoulders, really. Although she often had her poofed up hair and a hat or tiara or something.
Yeah, true. She had those big feathered. Yeah.
Yeah, but her personality, I think, made her larger than life. But there were quite a few legendary actresses that were really short. But,
it seemed like there were a lot of male, leading guys that were short as well.
And they went great, Alan Ladd and Bogart. Yeah.
Right. And you only know that because you go to the Wax Museum and you see them and they put them at like this is like real size, and they're so short. But when you would interact with these people, did they give you were you like part of the family? Is that how you were treated?
Well, they didn't know essentially. They didn't know who I was, but they figured if I'm on the inside and sitting at the lunch table, whether I'm Groucho's grandson or someone else, they figured I must be there. So there wasn't any kind of snobism. When George Burns was coming over, I was really jazzed about meeting him. This was before the Sunshine Boys, but I still respected the whole Burns and Allen radio and TV. So I was a little nervous, and the doorbell rang, and I answered it, and this little man with thick glasses and a big smile shuffles in, and he says, "Hi, you want to live a long time? Become an actor. You'll live to be an old man like Groucho and me. Okay, let's eat." That was his opening line.
To you. And well, I mean, people could have thought that you were the love child between Aaron Fleming and Groucho, right? No. No, I know that made you throw up in your mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, but what is exciting is knowing how good you are at impersonations, that you have your book, Raised Eyebrows, you have that as an audiobook as well, right?
I do. I've made it basically so that there's no excuse for people not to get my book. It's available at Amazon on Kindle, and also the audiobook with me doing all the voices, much as I've been horsing around with you. And then also, if people would like to get a copy of the actual book, for those people who still read actual three-dimensional paper books, book.
Yes.
I would be happy to sign and or personalize copies, which can be ordered directly from me. Here's my shameless plug at Steve Stoliar, STOLIAR.com/shop. And you can order it and whatever you want special to say, like happy anniversary, Mildred and Joe, or
that's great. I love that.
So yeah, it's available on Amazon in different floor mats, as I like to say, or you can order one directly from me and have yourself a book that's soon to be a major motion picture, ladies and gentlemen.
See, that's what I mean. Being able to have that with your signature and being able to hear all the voices that you do, that's something you got to go to that site to get. And
yeah, I have heard. I am a bad salesperson for myself. I'm sure I would have been more successful if I'd been nervier and pushier, but it's always rubbed me the wrong way. But I have heard from people who said, I've had your book and I loved it, but the audio book is a different experience entirely because it's like hours of a performance rather than reading. So
I can imagine.
It's hard for me to say, oh, you should get both of them, because then that just makes me sound greedy and self-centered. But it is apparently a completely different experience. So name your poison.
Well, I just love it because I can listen to you in the car. That's why I love audiobooks. And, of course, I don't have an 8-track. No, this comes on a CD or a...
It comes... Again, there is no excuse. It comes as a series of CDs or could be downloaded directly to those devices that people walk around staring at as trucks barrel towards them in the middle of a crosswalk. I'd like to think that people jogging around me are listening to my audio book as they're...
There you go. I am really, really excited about being able to do that, and I'll now that I have your number, I'll call and say, hey, Steve, okay, I'm ordering a book now. Do you see the order come through? And then you'll go like, okay, well then would you send me like you can't autograph the download, so how are you going to send me an autograph?
No, the only thing that really makes, nor the Kindle, I can't really do that.
Right.
Unless they have something like when UPS shows up and you kind of sign virtually this thing that shows up electronically as a scrawl or something.
Yes.
So, no, the only way to really get a signed thing is to order a signed copy from my website. But I only charge the cover price, which is what Amazon charges. So, that's
how sweet. That's the first thing I've ever heard. And somebody says, I'm not charging more because there's a delay in the supply line or something like that.
Groucho would probably say, if you autograph it, you should charge him less. That's like he would say, the way we would tell if a joke was funny, if Zeppo laughed at it, we would take it out of the bit.
Well,
but Zeppo was the fourth brother who wasn't. He was in the first Paramount films, and then he was never happy in front of the camera because he was a late addition after his brother was drafted into World War I, and he, as a teenager, became the straight man. But he was never satisfied, and he ended up leaving the act after Duck Soup in 1933. And becoming an extremely successful Hollywood agent, representing such forgotten bit players as Clark Gable and Carol Lombard, and Lucille, Lana Turner, and Barbara Stanwyck. Yeah, he did really well at that, and never looked back. And I have the distinction of being able to say that he and I dated the same girl.
Who was that?
Well, I won't tell you who. Well, her first name was Linda. She was my girlfriend at the time, and I took her to dinner at Groucho's on a night that Zeppo was there.
Uh-huh.
He had recently been divorced by his wife, Barbara, who left him for Sinatra.
Wow.
Zeppo had an eye for the ladies, similar to Chico's eye for the ladies, and he found Linda to be kind of I mean, she was attractive and bright and had a good personality. So he was sort of enchanted by her. He said, you know, Steve, you and Linda should visit me in Palm Springs sometime.
Uh-oh.
And I said, I don't know. I was there when I was 8 and it was sweltering. And he said, well, when were you there, in the summer? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, you know, Steve, it's cold in Alaska during the winter, too. And we ended up breaking up. And I had a couple of pictures I wanted Zeppo to sign, so I sent them to his place in Palm Springs, and with a cover note saying, if you have any advice for the lovelorn, since you've been around the track a few times, Linda and I broke up. So I get a call.
Oh, no.
It's Zeppo Marx. How are you? I got those photos. God, I was good looking back then. Anyway, what I wanted to know, and you have to be honest with me, I don't want to step on your toes, but do you think Linda would go out with me? And I thought, this is really weird. I wrote him for advice on how to deal with the breakup, and he wants to go out. And I said, well, I don't know. She enjoyed meeting you, and I'll ask her, because if it's at all awkward, the last thing I would want to do. No. So I checked with her, and she too kind of got a kick out of this strange request.
Yes, and
So
you being the
they went out.
go-between. Oh,
They went out once. He took her to dinner in San Diego, and then to watch a highlight game in Tijuana. So I guess that was his go-to first date, dinner in San Diego and a highlight. And then after that, he said, Linda was very nice, but all she did was talk about herself. And I want you to know I didn't even kiss her. And I saw her on campus, and she said, Zeppo was very nice, but all he did was talk about himself. I thought was interesting. And then
that's great.
after that, anytime I would be at a party at Groucho's and Zeppo was there, he would make a point of collaring someone and saying, I want you to meet Steve. He's a nice fella. He and I dated the same girl, but he got further with her than I did. That was like my introduction.
That was your legacy.
She was 19, I was 20, and he was 74.
Yeah. Who's the winner of that? Yeah. Who's going to be the winner of that one? I think it's funny.
Anyway, all of these tales and more can be found in my book. And I'm, as I say, jazzed about the fact that the pieces are finally falling into place for the movie version.
Yes.
Which, as I say, is not a biography of Groucho. It any more than Ed Wood was a biography of Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love that comparison. That's great.
Yeah, well, but I mean, that's what I tell people. You know, sometimes on on Facebook you get the whole gamut of comments from people, and some of the people saying, I don't want to see Groucho as an old man. I want to see him young when he, with his brothers. And my answer is this is my story of my experiences with him, and it didn't happen then. And B, you better not go see Ed Wood, because you'll be disappointed that Lugosi is not about to star in Dracula and the Black Cat and the Raven and the Son of Frankenstein. It's him as weak and drug-addled and desperate for money, and then this young, enthusiastic Ed Wood guy. So I think it's a valid comparison to help people understand why would you do a movie that only focuses on that period in their life? Because that's the one that because it's, a story of a kid and his hero and this difficult woman and their interpersonal relationships.
There was so much drama that you had to live through and look past.
Yeah, it's mostly a drama, but there was much humor and comedy because there was still a lot of Groucho left in Groucho. I mean, just when I would think he was past twisting a phrase, like, for instance, he used to love, I would bring him the mail, and he always looked forward to getting the Hollywood trade papers. And he sat down to lunch one day and said, "Wonderful mail today, nothing but requests for money." And I said, "But you got a variety, didn't you?" And he said, "Yes, a variety of requests for money." So there was still a lot left in him all the way to the end. Even on his deathbed, he died in August of 1977, drifting in and out of lucidity. The nurse woke him up and he said, "What do you want?" And she said, "I want to see if you have a temperature." And he said, "Don't be silly. Everyone has a temperature."
That's on his deathbed. Oh, my word.
Yeah. I mean, I hope I'm that together.
Yeah.
So
I think you will be. And it'll just be like everybody will wait with bated breath. Who will he sound like when he's going? What voice will he do? Who will he be as he leaves this earth? Because you are so good at that. I'm so surprised.
Thank you. I don't know if you know the story, but Mel Blanc, who did all the voices for the Warner Brothers cartoons, was in a really severe accident and I don't know if it was strictly literally a coma, but he was unconscious, and nothing anyone said to him got any kind of response. And someone said, "Hey, Bugs, how you doing?" And with his eyes closed, he said, "Yeah, I ain't doing bad. How you doing, Jack?" And they were able to get through to him because even unconscious, he responded to the voices he'd been doing for decades.
Oh, my word.
When contacting him as himself didn't get any results. Brain is a strange creature.
Grief. Well, we could talk for hours, and I'm going to have to let you go. I just can't do that. No, but I have to. I just want to remind people we've been talking to Steve Stoliar, and his book is available on everything, but the audiobook is what you want to experience. And so you can go to you can go to Amazon, you can go to Kindle.
You can go to Amazon for the audiobook.
Okay.
Or Audible.
Sorry.
Or for the Kindle on Amazon. But if you want an actual book that I'm happy to sign to you, you can go to Steve Stoliar, STOLIAR.com, and order it directly from myself.
Directly. We understand that. Directly. Okay. I appreciate you, Steve, so much, and just been an honor to have you on.
It was my pleasure
to have a conversation. Not an interview, it was a conversation with you.
Yes, that's the best kind of interview, not just Q&A.
Amen, brother. I thought I was only going to say, and I just practiced these lines. Here's Steve Stoliar. And thank you, Steve, for being on. But you let me talk. I thank you so much. You are an incredible interview.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
You have a good day. And next time, as soon as the movie is ready to come out, we'll get you. Okay?
It's a deal.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye. Oh, man. So that was amazing. Was that not amazing? Isn't he incredible? He's so smart. It's almost hard to talk to him. He's so smart because you're going to say the wrong thing. But, I love that. Thank you, Don Wilson, for letting me in on that world. I appreciate that. Well, we got to go. So I just want to tell everybody thank you for joining us. We'll be back here next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Got some great guests for you then, too. And I'll be watching for my... my Facebook and YouTube. This will air again, real quick on YouTube. Thank you very much. Y'all be careful. And first responders, we love you.